We're Group 2, and we decided to do our project on Metta World Peace. The reason why we picked Metta World Peace for our group project is because he is notorious for his on and off the field controversies and because of his long time struggle with mental health. He was born Ronald William Artest Jr. on November 13th, 1979, in Queens, New York. His parents, Ron Artest Sr., a former boxer, and Sarah Artest. He grew up poor, so they lived in a cramped two-bedroom apartment with as many as 10 people. World Peace grew up in the tough Queensbridge projects. It was home to some gang and drug activity. After years of domestic violence, his parents split up. His father moved out, but only a few doors down. World Peace became very angry after his parents split. His mother thought seeing a therapist would help. The therapist advised basketball as an outlet for World Peace's behavioral problems. After this, World Peace's world revolved around basketball. He also had a love for hip hop and rapping, which also helped. Growing up in a rough neighborhood, Artest witnessed violence everywhere. During a YMCA sanctioned basketball tournament, a fellow player by the name of Lloyd Newton was stabbed in the back with a broken off leg table during an altercation. Artest was quoted saying, "It was so competitive. They broke a leg from a table and they threw it. It went right through his heart. He died right on the court." In high school, World Peace attended LaSalle Academy. He helped the team to an undefeated record and became New York City's co-player of the year. World Peace attended St. John's University where he played for 1 year before deciding to turn pro. He was drafted in the first round, the number 16 pick overall by the Chicago Bulls in 1999. World Peace played a total of 175 games for the Bulls over 2.5 years, mostly as a starter, during which time he averaged about 12.5 points and just over 4 rebounds per game. He was named to the NBA All-Rookie Second Team in 1999. Midway through the 2001-2002 season, Artest was traded by Chicago to the Indiana Pacers. With about a minute left in the game, a fight broke out between the players on the court. After the fight, World Peace was laying on the scorer's table when a fan threw a drink from the stands, causing him to run into this crowd and start a fight between the fans and the players. Oh my God. What the fuck? On November 19, 2004, in a game between the Indiana Pacers and Detroit Pistons, with about a minute left in the game, a fight broke out between the players on the court. After the fight, World Peace was laying on the scorer's table when a fan threw a drink from the stands, causing him to run into the stands and start a fight between the fans and players. 9 players were suspended after the fight, including World Peace, who was suspended for 86 games plus any playoff games, the longest suspension for an on-court incident in NBA history.
At the end of the game, I called the Detroit fans a bunch of punks. After further review, I still think they are. Although not all the fans, but those that were involved in this, those that came onto the floor, guys, and it escalated when the fans get involved.
No, there's no question. And one thing that people don't understand, when you're involved in a rivalry like this, where the emotions are running at an all-time high, you have adrenaline flowing, and especially when fans are the ones who instigate these types of altercations. A player, in essence, is looking for an opportunity because they've dealt with so much ridicule from these fans, the racial slurs, throwing things. It's ridiculous, and then at that point, oftentimes you just lose control emotionally.
And you're going to hear people talk about players having to show restraint.
One of the theories we used was Massey's view on values. From his research and findings on how we develop our values, Morris Massey believed that the primary determining factor was the chronological era we grew up in and the global and local events that occurred during the time. He refers to this theory as what you are is based on where you were when the significant event happened. He believed that during the time we began developing our values at a young age, somewhere between 7 and 15 years old. The events that were occurring on a global as well as local level played a major role in how our values were formed. In addition to the era one was raised in, our geography and local environments also affected us. We believe that World Peace's violent background and growing up in such a rough neighborhood has a lot to do with his actions on and off the court today. He said he's accustomed to playing really rough after the incident that happened with 19-year-old Lloyd Newton. The Lloyd Newton incident could also have ties to the 2004 Malice in the Palace incident where a fan threw a drink at him. Artest's first reaction could have been to defend himself from those throwing foreign objects on the court. We also decided to use Aristotle's virtue-based theory. Aristotle was concerned with the character of the person or moral agent as opposed to a set of rules or consequences. This ethical system based on character makes it harder to identify right from wrong since character can vary between individuals. The rightness of an action will be considered more situational based on personal benefit, group benefit, and intention as well. Moral virtue is always a mean between two less desirable extremes, a balance of excess, deficiency, or between two opposing vices. This is called the golden mean. For a long time, Ron Artest was known for being a hothead in the sport of basketball, always starting fights on the court as well as other incidents off the court. On September 16, 2011, Artest's name was officially changed to Metta World Peace. Metta is his first name, and World Peace is his last name. He says changing his name was meant to inspire and bring youth together all around the world. In his journey to clean up his act, he became an advocate for world peace, showing courage in order to find that middle ground in his life and finding ways to share his newfound self. Metta now contributes to many charities advocating for world peace and mental health, but continues his play hard attitude on the court. The Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, or MBTI, is a tool for understanding our own personality and those of others. By understanding others' preferences, this will help in relating to them in the best way possible. Relationships between you and your partner, children, parents, friends, associates, and co-workers can only be enhanced with this knowledge of their preferences. We have given Metta World Peace the MBTI code of INFJ. The reason why he is an introvert is because he is known to be a very unfriendly person on and off the court. However, if it had not been for basketball, he wouldn't be a social person, according to his therapist. Metta could also be considered a social introvert because he gets along well with his teammates, but he has not much contact with them off the court. He would be considered an intuitive because he wants to educate kids on being better parents. Metta is focusing on the big picture here. He uses his past experiences with not having his parents around to educate the youth about the importance of being a good parent. Many of his problems could be traced back to his parents separating when he was younger, and he is trying to make sure that the next generation of children does not have to suffer through this. Metta is also a feeler because he donates to mental health charities because of his struggle with mental health. Overcoming his struggles over mental health was only made possible because he opened himself up for help. Metta understands the importance of dealing with his mental issues and how difficult it can be, so he seeks to help people who have an easier time dealing with their issues than he did. He is considered a judger because he has created an organization that will control all of his charities. Metta leads a very organized life, from schedules for meals and workouts to having all of his charities organized in a centralized organization. He can also be a judger because he expects his company to come through when he needs them to manage his charities so that he may focus on playing the game of basketball.
Ron Artest drives down the lane, right to the basket and scores.
Talk to somebody about it. I did. Take the first steps and be a champion.
LA County Department of Mental Health believes in you. Mental illness affects 1 in every 4 individuals. You're not alone. If you or someone you love needs help, call our 24-hour hotline, 1-800-854-7771.
A champion doesn't accept defeat. Neither should you. You can do it.
Existential crisis is a moment at which an individual questions the very foundation of his or her life, whether his or her life has any meaning, purpose, or value. Metta World Peace experienced this moment at the age of 13 when his home in New York was burned down and his parents divorced. World Peace didn't have a choice in whether if these two events could happen or not, but to deal with the emotional pain, his mother gave him the option of going to a therapist. World Peace accepted and embraced the fact that he had to go to a therapist. He is quoted once saying, "He helped me a lot. Without him, I don't know where I'd be," end quote. This decision leads him to be a better person in his community by donating thousands of dollars and helping the youth. Since 2006, Metta's suspension for fighting on the court have increased. This is after he changed his name. This tells me that his behavior is very likely to continue. We believe world peace falls under the albatross syndrome because during the early part of his life, certain events led him to act the way he did. He states that his problems started when his house burnt down at the age of 13 and his parents separated. Quote, and from then on, I was really agitated and started getting in a lot of trouble, end quote. He clearly states that the events of his past are the main reason for his behavior. An example of this behavior is his constant fighting on the court. Artest justified this behavior by saying, quote, I'm accustomed to playing basketball really rough. When I came into the league, I was used to fighting on the court. That's how I grew up playing basketball, end quote. The reason I believe that he will continue this behavior is because he continues to be a hot-headed player when on the court, and his suspensions for fighting on the court have increased since 2006. Meta world peace falls under the stereotypes that males are distinguished by their accomplishments and that being at the top of an hierarchy is appealing. Just like many athletes, Meta is focused on being the best, but situations such as the Malice in the Palace and his long list of suspensions has given fans a negative outlook on the star. He's changed his name in hopes that it will give the world a more positive look on him and that it will earn him a new slate in the world's eyes. He's also quoted saying that changing my name was meant to inspire and bring youth together all around the world.
Why are you doing it?
Well, you know, like, it's all about, like, star power, you know. It's all about that positive energy.